Who is it? It's me. Open up. Hold on a second. What do you need? I wanted to help you build your P40. You gonna let me in? Yeah, I guess. Nice shirt, by the way. Thanks. They're my favorite band. I love that Holy Diver song. Holy Diver. What kind of a fan are you? And welcome back to Frank's Model Aviation Workshop. This is episode 16 of the Top Flight 60 Series P40E Warhawk build. To this episode, we're going to be putting the sides on the crutch. I'll bring you in and show you all the intricate details when we get to that. I'm basically going by the manual, so whatever the manual says, I'll bring you in and show you exactly how I'm going to do it. Now, this is, you know, when you make a mistake, there's no going back. You're going to see the mistake. You're going to see me fix a mistake. Hopefully there isn't any mistakes, but mistakes happen. It's all part of the hobby. So without further ado, and before we get started, please consider subscribing to my channel, like and share my videos, and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a new installment to the build. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you. So let's get going. As you can see, what I have here is the 1B former and the chin plate mocked up, because this chin plate has an angle on it. It's going, you know, for your right thrust angle. You want to make sure that matches up to the plan. If this chin plate is on backwards, upside down, your thrust angle will be off. So that's just a mock-up. It won't be on there when I start to glue the sides on, but I will show you. The sides basically plug in. You can see they plug in to those tabs there. I'm going to start by gluing it down on that bottom edge toward the table. Pointing at it with the screwdriver. I'll be gluing this bottom edge here and here. And I won't be gluing this up here yet, but I will, before I bring that fuselage size up, I'll be running a bead down in here, if you can focus. Right there where the crutch bottom meets the fuselage side. So I'll be basically getting this left side glued up to the bottom part of the crutch, basically. And make sure that before it's glued, that those tabs will engage. So I'll put you on the tripod again, bring you in, and get you as close as I can. I don't know if you'll be able to see the details of the glue, but after I get done gluing, I'll bring you in and show you where I glued. Okay, I'm most likely going to be in the way of the camera here. So I'm going to try to do this so you can see it. I'm just going to hold that until that sets. I just basically right now I glued the crutch to the top side of the fuselage side. All right. test fit there. All right. I'll be right back. Gotta go get a couple pieces that I forgot to get. As you can see, I didn't glue anything except for this whole edge along the whole bottom of the crutch, from this former to here, this former to here. And once I test fit everything else, like this wing mounting block that goes in here, I want to make sure that goes in and it's not interfering with anything. Okay, I wanted to show you, this is why I wanted to go get my wing hold down blocks. You see that former there is like impeding in that space there about, I don't know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. So I need to either notch this block to fit, otherwise, you know, it's going to lift up on your crutch if you force that. So, or the easiest part would be to just sand this down until you can get that to close up and the block set in there easily without any force at all. Right now that fuselage side is on that crutch, so if I go to force it, it's going to take this side and it's going to move it up a little bit off the table. So I'm going to go about and I'm going to shave this down a little bit, either with a knife or maybe with a knife and that sanding bar. So we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm going to see how much I need to do it. I'm going to get my head in your way. About that much. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same on this side. It looks like it. So I'm going to take my clear ruler. Hopefully it'll fit in there. Oh yeah. Perfect. I'm going to draw a straight line, or try to. And put a new blade in the X-Acto. You always want fresh blades in your X-Acto. It just makes life easier. So I'm just going to start by shaving it down to the line. Try not to cut the crap out of my hand. Alright. This is just, I'm just doing the left side for now, so I'm going to sand this flat. I put a little piece of sandpaper on the back of this ruler. One, because it'll keep it perfectly straight and flat. And it's nice and stiff, so you don't have a lot of flex. So let's test that out again. We'll close that up. That should fit in there just like that. You see that? Look, that it just sets in there perfectly. You see that? That's the way you want that to set. Now, I'm not going to adjust this side yet until I get this right side glued on. So we'll just concentrate on the left side of the fuselage. it gets confusing because the plane's built upside down, so you kind of, it's kind of like when you're flying upside down, everything's reversed. All right, so let's go on to the next. Okay, now I can probably, since I got that adjusted, I can probably go ahead and glue. I'm not gonna glue. Oh, let me move it back. I'm not gonna glue this because I gotta fit F1 in there, but I can glue this and this. So it'll be all glued from here to here and up. And I'm pretty sure when those are closed, I can get, yeah, I can get that in there because we're gonna epoxy those in. Oh crap, I can't even. I can glue that all the way up because this will just set right in there. So let's go ahead and do that. I think what I'll start with, it seems to make sense, is this former here. This is crappy footage. This former here is going to get glued. This top and this former is going to get glued. That's what I'm going to glue right now. I'll get that done and then I'll come back and show you the results. I'm just going to hold that for a second. Running out of glue. It's not a good thing. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is get some tape. I'll hold that. And then I'm going to glue this former here. Hold that for a sec. You want to always make sure your formers are contacting. And then I'm going to run a bead right here. So far, so good. All right, it says to do the right side now, so I'm gonna do the same procedure on the other side, and I'll tape the side. But first, you know, like I did the other side, I'm gonna first make sure they move up nice. Then I'm gonna run my bead and just hold that bottom edge. What I'm gonna do, I'll run my bead from here to here, even all the way up to here. Run the bead all the way down. Then I'm gonna hold that bottom edge. I'm not gonna force this up yet. Just hold that bottom edge and make sure that it dries real good. And you wanna make sure when you do that, you're pushing that fuselage side down to the table. So far, I'm good on. So let's. I'm gonna have to make a modification for my servo tray because the servos that I have are 1/8 of an inch too deep. So I'm gonna add 1/8 of an inch strip. I'll show you when that time comes. But I'm gonna have to add 1/8 of an inch strip to my servo tray where they bolt up to the tray, where the servos bolt up to the tray, because they'll be resting on the bottom of the, or actually the top of the crutch, I guess you could call it. Letting that set up a little bit before we start gluing up the sides. Oh, and I also want to do my little trick with the former here. Same trick as the other side. I'm just gonna do it here. Don't need to get it on. That's what you want to do, is stab yourself. Watch your hands, because you can literally slice your hand wide open. Don't ask me how I know. I don't think there's a model that I've built yet that I haven't left a little DNA behind on. DNA. Perfect. All right. Once I'm happy with that, if that's going to stay and not pull away, I'll glue up this side onto it. This is the first full fuse warbird I've ever built, RC wise, I should say. I built, you know, the Gillows kits, like that one you saw hanging on the wall. That's a Gillows laser cut P40. That was a fun build. Okay, so I'll start back here on this former. think so far this kit's turning out really nice. And I ordered my Sierra retracts, so they should be here after the first of the year sometime. Called them up, answered the phone right away, took care of me, took my order, and even told me that it was going to be a couple weeks, so that's good. All right, happy with that. I'm going to pre-get some tape. Basically just running the glue down the joint. I'm just holding that against the former so it makes a good joint. And I'll run this bead down on the top of the servo tray. I'm gonna have to get on the horn with Bob Smith Industries and get me some new CA, because I'm down to the last little bit of this bottle, as you can see. Might have to start using thick. Got a bunch of it for some reason. Looks like we got some good joints. All right, next is gonna be putting these 3/16 by 3/16 stringers on the tail end. I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna glue those in with the fuselage flexed, so I'm not fighting the glue joint. I'm not fighting trying to bend a glue joint. I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put a little more glue in there. Probably doesn't need it, but probably won't hurt. Okay, there's the two sides glued from F2 to F4. Glued the servo tray and the formers all the way up. Next step is to glue this stringer in. It basically slides in here. And you see how that fuselage side's straight? Well, I'm gonna put pins in to where I can bend this with the stringer. That way it'll be glued curved, and it should keep its curve a lot better than if you glued it straight like that and have to fight a curve. You try bending that, it's going to want to spring right back. But if you bend it and you glue it curved, it's not going to, it'll still want to spring back, but it's not going to want to spring all the way back. So that's the next step. I'm going to let this glue dry up a little bit, and then we'll get to that. Okay, I'm going to show you on this side what I'm going to be doing on this side as well. So what you see me doing here will be done on this side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my T-pins, and I'm basically going to hold the edge. So we'll start probably here at this former. I'm just going to push a T-pin in there. Go a little bit further. And you push the side in until that 3/16 stringer hits that line. Push another T-pin in. I mean, you may have to use, I don't know, 20 T-pins, I don't know. But I want to bend that fuselage side in, so when I glue it, it'll stay bent. Things are hard on the thumbs. I used to work in the oil field. My hands were like really callous. Now they're, since I've been in the factory, softened up a lot. Just keep working along, keep pushing pins in. It'll make for a nicer setup, I think, and your fuselage will be perfectly straight. It's time consuming, but I got all day. You see how it's wanting to spring back? We'll see how much it wants to spring back after it's glued in this curve. Hard to hold on to these things. I'm gonna put one more in. Probably not needed, but it'll make me feel good. Okay, so you see how it wants to spring back. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get one of my nice weights that I use. Something with a 90. I wonder if these will work. Might. If not, I could. If they want to slide back, I can pin them. Okay. So it wants to slide back a little. So what I'm going to do is I'll just put a pin in the back here to hold it. And the rest of them are pretty dang good. So that'll be 90 degrees to the table. I'm pretty sure it's gonna have to be squoze in once I get the formers in there. So start with a 90 is better than starting with it bowed out. So I'm gonna push that stringer down to the table, and I'm gonna run thin CA along the edge of that stringer. Okay, that stringer is in. I'm going to do the next setup just like that on the other side. Okay, stringer's in both sides. As you can see, whatever you do to one side, you want to do exactly to the other side. So I have one of these to hold this side in, and I got 3 of these holding this side. Same with the other side, and there's another one of those over here holding that. Both stringers are in, and when it dries a little bit, I'll take them pins out, or I can just move those weights, and you can see how much of a spring back you'll get. I'm pretty sure that you're not going to get much because it's glued in a bend, so we'll see what happens. Okay, I think they're dry enough. Now watch what happens when I'll move these out of the way. Watch what happens when I move this. Of course, they are glued to the table right now, so So that's not really a good test, but once I get it off the table, I'll show you. So what I wanted to show you now is up here, we're getting ready to glue in F1B. But before I do that, I want to make sure these are glued and they aren't moving. So I want to concentrate on this edge and that edge. I want to get those glued up to where they're not going to move, and then we'll move on to putting F1B in. There's a lot of tension on that. I want to try to avoid putting a pin directly into the next to that fuselage, because I don't want to put any kind of ding in my fuselage. So I'm going to get some scrap plywood. Anything will do, something like this. But I'll push that in with the scrap plywood and pin it right there. And if I have to use a couple pieces per side, then that's what I'll do it. Get a couple pins. I'm gonna get my super pin pusher inner thing. I never used to use these things. Man, I'll tell you. They are great. All right. I'm just getting whatever scrap I can find to push on it. And you want to try to avoid gluing the scrap to the actual fuselage, because that would be bad. Where that notch is, I'm trying to avoid that so I don't glue the oh shit. So I don't glue the scrap to the fuselage. Okay, so that's nice and tight. Do the same. I don't know, you can, I'm pretty sure you can see that. Yes, it's nice and tight. So I'm gonna do the same to the other side. Alright, one more pin. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Let's see something. Yep. Looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and glue those right there. This Bob Smith Industries CA is the best on the market. You can't get any better. They make epoxy and everything. And that's who I do all my glue buying through. They're not a sponsor, but man, are they good. All right, after that, it's time to work in F1B. Okay, I'm messing around with this F1B, and I've got a position where it needs to be on the plan here. This is not glued yet, so bear with me. But it's having an issue up here because it is warped. You can see it. You can see a little bend in it, so I'm going to do my heat and iron trick and try to straighten that out. You already saw that done earlier, so I'm not going to show it again. Okay, so I got that F1B as straight as I can possibly get it. Because I'm going to be fighting this edge, because there's nothing to really hold on to, because look, you can literally, there's nothing to stop it. I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to tack glue it on the inside of this. And then I'll start adjusting the sides, because it should just go right together. So that's what I'll do. And I believe this is where the tank goes, so if that's the case, it is. I'm going to fuel proof the inside of here with some thinned out epoxy before I put the chin plate on. I'll put thinned out epoxy on the bottom of the chin plate, thinned out epoxy all inside this tank area, and then I'll glue the chin plate on after we get this all situated. So let's tack that in there. I got my iron on just in case I need it for future. I will be taking this apart and putting it back together numerous times to make sure it's perfect as I can get it. I'm just going to hold that. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'll show you when I'm done here. I basically just put a little more glue down here. Once this sets up, I'll concentrate right here on this side. This side's glued flush, and this side will have to be glued flush. There's still a little bow. I mean, it's not warped, but now it's like the whole thing's like bowed like that. That's like extreme, but it's very slight. So I just want to make sure this thing gets glued in there straight. Because because this determines your right thrust. Now I'm going to tack glue this other side. I'm moving it a little bit to get that glue underneath. Once I get done here, this will be perfectly flat and straight. At a 2-degree angle, of course. So basically all I gotta do, glue this F1B in, epoxy the inside of this thing so that it'll be fuel proof. Epoxy the bottom side of this chin plate and glue it on. And then epoxy the wing hold down blocks. This thing, I now understand why these planes weigh 12 pounds. This stuff is heavy duty. I would like to make a 9-pound P40. That would be awesome, but I just can't see that happening. It looks to me like I'm glued there. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to unpin this. Bring this in and push it in and pin. Because what I'm trying to do is push that fuselage side in there. That's going to be tough. I wonder how I can do that. I don't want to tape this front edge, because if I tape that front edge, it's going to take that 1/8 and it's going to bend it. And I don't want to bend it in a glue situation because it'll stay that way. These should be done. Okay, so that's all glued really nice. And it's down on the table. How am I going to do this? Wonder. Just thinking here. You can almost see what I'm doing here. I need to squeeze them in. So my plan push these in. Put a pin down here, maybe two. Now you see it's going to push away, but watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do the same over here. And then I'll take the tape, maybe. I might have needed more. And just squeeze those together. How about them apples? Don't think I'm gonna get any better than that. In fact, I know I'm not. So, I can tape up here. No, I can't. It's gonna pull it up, pull it away. So, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and glue former 1B to the tab up here. I moved it like that so it'll draw glue underneath that piece of wood. And then once it's all settled in, I'll put another bead of glue around there. You can also fuel proof with CA, but man, I don't like wasting my CA like that. Same thing with this side. See how I move that? And that is now glued in perfectly. I'll just run my bead down inside there. I'll go ahead and run a bead on the bottom part where my steel pieces are drawn in. And F1B is now glued in. Now I just hope this will fit. It should. I'm going to let that set up a little bit before. I think I can go ahead and glue F2 in place. I'm going to try to run a bead of glue down there. I might just tack it up here for now. That is literally perfectly flush with that front leading edge saddle. The former F1B is glued in, and I went ahead and put triangle stock in because just to stiffen up this firewall, because I'm using a gas engine and apparently those vibrate more than glow. So now what I'm going to do before I put this chin plate on, don't mind all that murder she wrote on there, but before I put this chin plate on, I'm going to mix me up some 30-minute epoxy thinned with alcohol, and I'm going to fuel proof the entire inside and the bottom of this chin plate. And that way when I glue that together, my tank area will be completely fuel proof. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, so I'm going to, you probably can't see it, but I'm going to mix some 30-minute epoxy and find my stir sticks. Okay, I'm going to mix some 30-minute epoxy resin. I'm going to go 10 or, let's see, 10 grams. We'll see what 10 grams look like. Okay, 11. I lied. 11 grams of hardener. So that'd be 22. I'll mix that together and then I'll thin it with some alcohol. This is, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm not a huge epoxy user. I think before I do this, I'm going to glue those, well, I'll glue those blocks in for the wing hold down. Those blocks. Let's do that real quick. You want a fillet of glue underneath there too, so that's what I'm doing there. Do that other one real quick. I'm just wiping that off clean. Yeah, let that dry. All right, let's quickly mix up some alcohol in there. So it's approximately a 50-50. That could be like 10 hardener, 10 resin, and 20 alcohol. That's how I mix this, roughly. I'm going to start with that chin plate. Okay, happy with that. I'm going to set it over here on this thing now. I'll just go through and just hit everywhere that I can get. I know this is real time, and I can't really show you while I'm doing this, so you'll just have to take my word for it. It's getting done. Hope I can get this off the table once I'm done. have to say, this is kind of fun. Making that wood grain show up looks neat. I'm guessing one coat probably good enough. This is what I'll use for my firewall too. I'm not going to put any stuff near that hole because that dowel's going in there. What I'm doing now, just where the drips and puddles are, I'm just smoothing them out where it looks semi-neat. Okay, looks pretty good to me. I'll bring you in and show you. And once you use epoxy, you're pretty much done after you've used it. You can't store that. So now I'm going to try to clean my hands up. Hopefully alcohol works. Inside, all thin epoxy. And the chin block, or the chin plate. Now I can go ahead and glue this in after it dries. Okay, here's where we're sitting. I went ahead and took the fuse off the board, cleaned up all the ripped up wax paper, put a fresh piece of wax paper down so that I can concentrate on this area. And I noticed that this stringer down here on this end, it kind of lifted off of the board. So when I go to glue Former 8 in, I'm going to have to carve a little notch in there so that it'll set down onto the table, because Former 8 has to set onto the table with the fuselage sides, because it has to be totally flush on the top side. So other than that, I think we're looking pretty good. I got the landing gear blocks gluing in. Everything's curing. Takes a half an hour, so I'm going to take a break. When this is all dry, I will be back to continue the build. Well, I'm stuck here waiting on the CA to, or not the CA, but the epoxy to cure. So I don't know how long it's going to take. It's getting late. I'm going to end it for the night. We got our fuselage pretty much put together. The sides are on, the firewall's in, reinforced. And next episode we'll be concentrating on the tail wheel assembly. We'll get that figured out. But like I said, if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel, like and share my videos, and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. And I don't know what happened to the other guy that was supposed to help out, but he kind of disappeared. Anyway, that'll be it for today. This is the conclusion of episode 16. Thanks for watching. Is he gone? I never really wanted to help him anyway. He's mean to me.